In 1876, the Boston Red Stockings, later renamed the Boston Braves, became one of the charter franchises of the original National League. They relocated to Milwaukee in 1953, then to Atlanta in 1966, and didn't win a playoff game in Atlanta until 1991. But that did kick off the first of 14 straight division titles, with a World Series win in 1995 and another years later in 2021. So what's it like being a fan of a team that owned the 90s, but also lost in the playoffs 11 years in a row? Let's find out. I'm Dan Hopper, and this is Thrill of Defeat. My guest today is a comedian and an authority on all things Georgia sports, whose latest stand-up special, 44, is on YouTube now. Please welcome Sarah Tiana. Sarah,
Hello.
Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, man, I'm great to be here.
So, Sarah, where are you from exactly, and how did you first become an Atlanta Braves fan?
So I'm from Calhoun, Georgia. I mean, that's where I grew up. We have a Nike outlet. It's, just north. It's like between Atlanta and Chattanooga. We moved there when I was 5 from Northern California. So most of my family in Northern California were Oakland A's fans, still are. My grandmother worked for the Oakland A's, gave out the free stuff at the gate. Just grew up around a lot of baseball fans and fandom. And when we moved to Georgia, that's when the TBS Superstation was coming up and about. And so, we were able to watch Braves games. We just watched baseball no matter what. And then I just always watched it, even from when I was a little kid. And I can remember going to games when nobody went. It was like cheap Oklahoma days, and it was just that Dale Murphy vortex of this is our only good player. You'd have 2 extra tickets. You'd put them on your windshield. You'd come back and there'd be 4. Nobody went. But it didn't matter. It was cool. It was like going to a baseball game. Loved it.
Was your family in Northern California when the A's won the World Series? They won in the late 80s, and then... Oh, yeah. So you were there, but you didn't keep the A's fandom when you switched over?
No, I mean, I feel like I still love the A's as my American League team. They'll always have a place in my heart. Good friends with Dallas Braden, who's one of the announcers, and I think it's just I do Tony LaRussa's charities up there still. And I think that when you're a baseball fan, especially when you're kind of migrating from one place to another, you start kind of following players at first, and then you get, more diehard about the teams. And so, I mean, I always loved the Braves, and they won the World Series in '95. That was my senior year of high school. Everybody was in love with Chipper Jones and Steve Avery when I was in high school. So it was that was going to be everything. Yeah. Well,
so the Braves in general, let's just talk about the Braves fandom in general. They really, for a while, kind of had the Southeast U.S. to themselves, right?
They still do.
Yeah, they kind of do. I mean, they put 2 teams in Florida who, do
we even count those?
Yeah, not really.
I feel like those fans aren't when I think of Florida, I never think of people being born and raised there. I feel like it's such a migration state where it's if you were born there, you leave the moment you get out of college. If you weren't born there, you move there when you retire. Yeah,
my parents actually did move there when they retired, so they're there now. And a lot of a lot of the fans there are Yankee fans and or Phillies fans or whatever. But there's some Rays fans here and there, and a lot of Braves fans, just because they own the territory for so long that once they added a couple other teams, the fandom was already established. No one, a lot of people didn't switch over. I don't really know anything about the Braves in the 80s. I feel like they kind of came into my consciousness. 1991 was the first of 14 straight division titles, which is one of the most amazing runs of any team in history. I know this is a podcast about sports pain, but I feel like the Braves simultaneously, they were one of the most dominant teams of the 90s in any sport. They owned the 90s. They made the playoffs every single year, but they only won 1 World Series. And I feel like there's a lot of fan bases, including mine as a Pirates fan, that would kill to have one World Series. But at the same time, it's kind of like, do you look at it as, I am so blessed to root for this incredible team that was good every single year and had all these Hall of Fame players? Or is there a part of you that's like, I feel like we should have had one more title in the 90s, because they had crushing losses year after year, even though they were so good.
I honestly feel like that 91 year, that was the worst of first year, right?
Uh-huh.
And then we lost to the Twins in the World Series.
In game
And
seven, right? I think it was a 1-0
yeah,
game seven. Yeah,
but
crazy.
we both had parades that were so big. Like, I just remember the Braves parade for losing the World Series was just as big as the Twins parade. And to me, that year was almost more satisfying than the World Series win because by the time you get the World Series win, you've made the playoffs and like up and down, up and down. And so I think you weren't even expecting to finally win a World Series against Cleveland. And then so I think that worst of first year to me was maybe one of the greatest years for fandom.
Hmm.
I think the hardest loss was probably oh man, maybe against the Padres in 98 or the getting swept by the Yankees in the World Series in 99.
Yeah,
So it's
I
like
remember both of those.
yeah, I mean I think it's like kind of reminiscent of we haven't lost a World Series since then. Just talking about these like late 2000s, like I keep thinking about Phillies fans and like Philly fandom and like how that's got as much as I would cheer for Al Qaeda before any Philadelphia team, but like, I do think that it must be so hard to be a Philadelphia fan when like you lose a World Series, you lose a Super Bowl all in one year on top
Hmm.
of the Sixers just tanking in the playoffs and then the Flyers also losing in the playoff. Like that's a really tough run.
Yeah, I mean, one of the general sports, I don't know, general sports would you rathers is like, would you rather have a team that just kind of sucks all the time and so you have no expectations and any victory is, hey, this team's good this year, cool. Or, would you root for a team that's really, really good but just keeps breaking your heart and, the divisional series, the NLCS, losing games where they're the favorites, like the Padres series, like you said. And I feel like, most people in the former group would kill to have the latter problems. There's so many teams that just suck and they're like, I would love to win the division and lose in the playoffs. Who cares? But then, the Braves did it so much. It starts to at some point be like, I want to complain. I can't complain too much because we won in 95, but like, how is this happening like 9 years in a row or whatever?
I think that I would much rather be a contender because,
Yeah.
this year is the first year in a long time where we're not a contender. And it is more infuriating to me. Like, at least, when you go and you compete against a good team and you're in the fight, what am I going to complain about? Like,
Yeah.
they beat us here. Their
Hmm.
pitchers beat us on this day. That's baseball, like it's an up and down feeling and you can have a good day, you could have a great day, you could have the worst day of your career. You could be Max Fried tipping pitches in the first inning and then, all of a sudden like figuring it out and then like the next six innings no one can get a hit. So it's like there's all these different variables, I think, when it comes to baseball. But I think being competitive and like seeing good players on your team, having good players, having a good team, knowing that your organization is investing in your team and cares about it, and that you have a great fan base, you have a great stadium, you have a great, stadium experience. To me, that's more invaluable. And then, it also makes me like less clingy when it comes to players themselves. Feeling like, oh, we have to
Uh-huh.
hold on to Freddie Freeman or we're never going to win again. It's like as soon as first of all, the moment Corey Seager left the Dodgers in October, I was like, Freddie's going to the Dodgers. Like number
Hmm.
five is open. They're like, oh, he's leaving. He's so upset. I'm like, bye, bitch. Like, I mean, we're getting a 6 year younger version of you. Like, I'm not upset. You won me a World Series. You don't owe me anything else. You should make all the money that you possibly can with a team that is willing to pay you that money. The Braves are not a team that pays you your second contract, we pay you your first.
Hmm.
So I'm totally fine with that. And I just want a team that is good and competitive because I literally I watch every game. If I'm not watching the game, I'm listening to it on the radio. A lot of times I prefer the radio call. I actually love both of the TV and the radio announcers. It's like sometimes when it's like the Apple TV call, I'm like, ugh, I'd rather just listen on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think yes, I would rather have a team that is competitive all the way.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't know what that's like in baseball, but yes, in other sports, I agree. Um, so what was it like? You mentioned 91 was the worst of first year. The Braves kind of unexpectedly win their division and go to the World Series. But then from 91 on, like we said, we don't need to get into what happened in 1992 against the Pirates in game seven. The Pirates blew the game and then went on 20 straight losing seasons and basically became a footnote of my life. But anyway, this is a podcast about your trauma, not mine. So what was it like, they go from worst to first and they're kind of this upstart team to kind of becoming like the team of the 90s. What was it like in Georgia when this team became like, the team? They were the team to beat in the National League for over a decade, and they had 2 to 5 Hall of Famers on their team at any given time with, Greg Maddux and Tom Glavine and John
Yeah.
Smoltz and then a bunch of like you mentioned Steve Avery, who was great for a couple years before he got hurt. And every year there's a couple, and Chipper Jones and like just star players and so much winning. What was the fan base like? Did it explode? Was every Braves game an event? Were the playoffs like everyone stops to watch?
It was quite the event. I think the Tomahawk Chop became quite the thing. This first like real like specific cheer that, an entirely huge fan, like an entire stadium is doing it once. And it created this just energy at the stadium that was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Deion Sanders takes credit for that, for coming from Florida State. My mom and I kind of take credit for it because we used to do it at my high school too, because we were the Warriors. So
Dion
yeah,
stole it from you.
Yeah.
He's like,
He's
hey,
taking all
nice
the
cheer.
credit,
Yeah. No, who's
yeah,
going to believe you, Sarah? Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
nice.
my God,
No way.
Dion. I got to go on this podcast 30 years later and talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, Dion stole it from me. But yeah, so I think that the Braves were everywhere. It was Chicks Dig the Long Ball. They were on
Hmm.
TV, and it's like, Ted Turner is super famous at the time. And like
Yeah.
CNN is just starting to really roll.
Hmm.
So I think the vibe in Atlanta really shifted to like this kind of center of sports fandom, the universe. Like we got a hockey team, it didn't work out. I think they're trying to bring one back
Yeah,
now.
they are.
Now that the fandom is like kind of a little bit more sealed, but it was just like
Hmm.
all of a sudden it became this kind of hub, this southeastern hub. It's like this is no longer just a college football place. This is no longer the place. I mean, the Falcons started doing better. Everybody started doing better. And it was pretty exciting. So yeah, the Braves were everywhere. I worked for the Braves in 99 and 2000, like my last years of college. And so I can tell you from being in that stadium at almost every home game that it was electric.
Did it equal? I mean, I assume before 91 and maybe even still, college football kind of rules like the Southeast. Did, Braves fandom start to be on par with, people's respective SEC fandoms or like?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say because of the seasons, like it
Yeah.
kind of feels like
Hmm.
there's not a lot of
Hmm.
crossover between Georgia Bulldogs fans and Falcons fans. Like obviously there's a
Hmm.
ton, but Georgia football fans can, on the off season can come to Braves games all year. And so, yeah, I think that it just became like competitive and it's like, we hate Florida, therefore we hate Florida teams, like we don't like Notre Dame or what, like whoever it is,
No,
it's
yeah,
just
no one
like
does. Yeah.
it just became like, it kind of like cemented more rivalries
Hmm.
amongst the Braves. And then it became, I think that is how all fandom is sealed. Like you cannot have heroes if you do not have villains. So you have to create villains within the fan base to hate. And like the Yankees were also the team of the 90s,
Hmm.
and the Mets were kind of our like discount Yankees, I guess. So it's like,
We have
like when
Yankees at
Glavine goes
home.
to the
Yeah.
Yankees, you're like, what?
Uh-huh.
Um, and now I don't really even think about the Mets. Like I don't really hate the Mets the way that I hate the Phillies, but that's changed, In the 90s, it
Hmm.
was definitely, I guess it was mostly the Yankees that I hated in the 90s because I was just so sick of seeing them win everything.
Well, I think most non-Braves Yankees fans hated the Braves and the Yankees.
Yeah, I
If I could
bet.
speak for everyone,
Hmm.
that World Series was a very much who gives a shit for the
Yeah,
rest of
I
us.
believe it. Yeah.
So where did you watch? We mentioned, the Braves did finally get over the hump in 1995. They win the World Series against Cleveland, kind of continuing. Speaking of prolonged, tortured fan bases that still have not won.
Yeah.
Actually, the Braves got another World Series after that. Where did you watch the '95 World Series? Do you remember it happening live? And
Hmm. I
like
remember
what was
watching
like?
it on
Yeah.
our big screen TV in
Mm-hmm.
our living room
Sarah was doing quote marks for the
in
listening audience.
in Calhoun. Yeah, it was one of those, giant TVs with the
22
back or
inchers.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a satellite dish in our front yard, which was always, if it was windy, you're like, oh, forget it. Well, the whole night is ruined.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, so we were watching it as a family at home together. I got to stay up late and watch the game. It was awesome.
Nice. Yeah. What did you feel like when they finally won? Were you at that point, were you old enough to like appreciate how hard it was to like finally get over the hump? Because they had lost in 91, 92, 93, and then 94 was the strike year. So it was,
Yeah,
they kept
no,
getting close, but
I had zero appreciation for that
uh-huh.
struggle. I think I was just a little too young to really wrap my head
Yeah.
around it, and I hadn't lost as a human being and had things, parts of me
That
destroyed. My family, yeah, I don't know. We're just like it was just the four of us when I was growing up because we moved away from all of our family, and so it was really just like, oh, if they don't win, like it's okay. I was like really into theater and plays, so it's like I loved sports, but I wasn't the fan that I am now. And
mhm.
I can remember my family in California like trying to make bets with me about the World Series and like the wins and the losses, like if we ever played the Giants or just any California team, they would always try to make bets with me. It's why I don't bet on my own team anymore
How
because
did you make bets with your California family? Do you have to like mail them money, or is this like
oh
the
no, it was
90s?
just like you have to send me, mail me, this coffee mug or whatever. Like it
Okay.
wasn't like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just like whatever like high school me thought
Uh-huh.
was important. Like you have to buy me this or I have to buy you that.
Yeah, because a lot of the Braves' most crushing losing, I feel like, happened after the World Series. So it's kind of like at least they have the one, But
Yeah.
there's some teams that are so tortured that finally, when they get one, it's like this release. But yeah, because I'm a Penguins fan and they won when I was 7 or 8 or something, and I don't think you appreciate at the time like
Mm-mm.
how hard it is and how rare it is to win a championship. And then when they won two in a row and then they lost one, and I was like so mad the third year, and it's like no perspective at all of like how lucky you are to have a team that's anywhere near a championship until you go decades with it not happening. So yeah, I
Yeah.
could I could see that.
Yeah, that's how I felt about, I mean, Georgia football winning back to back. It was like as they're starting to win, and I think that they're up like 62-7. I'm still not comfortable, because it just like never felt like it was ever going to happen. And so
Uh-huh.
for me, for it to have happened when I was in high school and then for them to win, in 2021, was that the year?
Yeah, something like that. I forget the exact year.
22.
I forget because it's like the season goes into
I
the
know.
BCS is the
I
next
was like,
year
it's
or the
not the
title. Yeah.
COVID year because that
Uh-huh.
was the Dodgers and that was the Mickey Mouse.
Hmm.
It's probably literally on my hat.
Uh-huh.
2021.
Okay.
I think that losing a World Series wasn't as hard as Chipper retiring and then that pop fly rule thing that happened in like his last playoff series. And then like, we just lose. I think it was a wild card series. I want to say to St. Louis, and like that weird infield fly rule happened. And I'm like, and then everybody throws shit on the field. And I'm like, this is how Chipper's going out. Like, it's just like it felt like just such a letdown after what he gave us. And.
Sorry, I looked it up. It was in the eighth inning of their series against the Cardinals. Andrelton Simmons hit a fly ball to left that dropped between the shortstop and left field. So it should have, it could have dropped in, but they called it an infield fly rule
Yes.
because there were guys on base. But I guess they were saying it landed in the outfield.
It wasn't in the infield.
Yeah.
And so we didn't get to score any run. And it was like everybody threw stuff on the field. And like they're like, oh, what a trash fan base. And I'm like, F you. Like, this is like
every fan base would do that. Come on. They care.
Yeah. I mean, it had been so long since we were close, and this felt like such a good team. And it felt like the stakes were really high because it was Chipper's last year. And just wanted to bookend his career with a win on each, the first year he played and the last year. And it just didn't happen. And it felt like it was fixed and taken away from us.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe the St. Louis Cardinals were the recipients of some lucky bullshit.
Yeah.
Wow. That's probably the first and only time that ever happened. Yeah, I hate them way more than I hate the Braves. So,
Okay.
Although that's ebbed over the last couple of years because they kind of suck.
They're so irrelevant.
Yeah. But that's one of my least favorite things in sports in general when like fans do something and then people like the next day are like, yeah, what a classless fan base or it's just like it's a stadium of like 45,000 people that are pissed off, and some of them are going to do some angry shit like anyone would, and to like write some like dispassionate column like the next day chiding them. I just hate that mentality. You're like, someone some Canadians boo the national anthem. It's just like, how dare they? It's just, I don't know. It's fans in a room and they're fucking mad. Like, who cares? Like, it's sports. Like, as long as you're not like, physically hurting someone, but I don't know, whatever. Yeah.
No, I think it was the Cardinals pitcher that ended up being the one that like spoke out about the Tomahawk Chop. They stopped playing it, they stopped selling it. And then but fans were like, no, we're doing it. We'll just do the music ourselves.
Yeah, I think it was Ryan Helsley. Is that who it was?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, who had some like Native American ancestry, spoke out about it. So they don't do it officially at games, but fans just spontaneously do it now. Is that right?
They stopped doing it officially, and now they do it. They do it again because, well, I mean, the Braves have a long history with the Cherokee Nation. Like the club itself, like this, they're called the Southern Band of Cherokee Indians, and like that is their official. Like the Braves, sponsor their baseball team. They hold clinics for the tribe. Like on the reservation, they like donate to tons of their charities. The Southern Band also are season ticket holders. They've been season ticket holders for like, I don't know, 25, 30 years, something like that. They have like a whole month dedicated to them at the stadium. And, like the Braves have, obviously changed their logo over time, rightfully so. But it's obviously not the name of anything negative. The name does not insinuate anything negative.
Also, the logo is not the old Cleveland Indians Chief Wahoo logo, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but the Chief Nakahoma was very similar. So I'm like, I understand why they would. He was like looked like a little bit like more realistic, like stoic or whatever. But the tribe has continually spoken out, and said that, we are dealing with missing and murdered Indigenous women. We are dealing with alcoholism and drug abuse. We are dealing with illiteracy. We are dealing with crime and unemployment, and like depression. And all anybody asks us about is a cheer. And to us, that is more offensive, that like you only come here to discuss and speak of things with us, not when we ask you to, not when we ask for your help, but only to ask us about a cheer that we have repeatedly said we do not care about. Like we are part of this team and this organization. It is not offensive to us in any way, but doesn't seem to be enough for you.
Hmm.
So I stand by what they say. You know what I mean? Like I understand that pitcher might have been upset. I think we all get upset and offended by a lot of things that people do. And like we just kind of, then you have to assess the situation and decide, what's right, what's wrong. The Braves assessed it at the moment and they're like, all right, well, we don't want to upset anyone. So they stopped it. But then they upset hundreds of thousands of other people, probably for a variety of reasons that were both
Yeah.
right and wrong. And then they spoke with their, allegiance, who was the tribe that they were the closest to over the last 30 years. And then that's what they all decide. They decided to just keep it going. And so I don't know if there was any finessing on the Brave side, being like, yeah, we'll donate some more if we can keep doing it. Who knows? I don't know what
Yeah.
it is.
Hmm.
But all I know is that there are a lot of more important things to focus on. If you truly want to help Indigenous people in this country, there are much better ways to do it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of the way that you put it there about this is the only thing you ask us about, and just how often in my own life, like the only reason I think of a lot of this is like, the Cleveland changes their names to the Guardians, and now, the Commanders are back in the news because the president said they should go back. And it's just like, we can have these debates, but it's like literally the only debate that is in any way mainstream about Native Americans and indigenous rights, which is weird. It like takes up all of the air and then we don't think about anything else. So like,
Right.
I don't think necessarily if it went away, we suddenly would, but it is weird that it's the only like mainstream connection people seem to have with dealing with any indigenous issues. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean they do that with stadiums too, where they go like people don't want to move the stadium, and then they go like the Brave Stadium was moved from the south side of the city to the suburbs, right? And then
Hmm.
people go, well, that's racist. You're taking it away from Black people. And I'm like, well, it's racist to think that Black people don't live in the suburbs. Like, this is Atlanta. Like, I don't know if you've been to Atlanta, but the African American community in Atlanta is very wealthy and they live in the suburbs. You know what I mean? Like, that is not, they live in every part of the city equally. And, I think it's like very rude to just assume that like only white people live in the suburbs. Like F off. Like
Uh-huh.
it's like I don't know.
I
I don't like
I
that.
don't know anything about Atlanta. I can't confirm or I'm just
I
like,
can tell
yeah,
you. I mean,
yeah. So
it's
that's how
Tyler Perryville. I mean, I went to school between two all, HBCUs
hmm.
and Martin Luther King was based there all through civil rights. So it's
Hmm.
like this is a city like I mean, I would say I ended up transferring to Georgia State. I think 30 or 40% of my school was African American. Another 30% was Vietnamese. And then the rest were just like a mix of white and Latino. Like, so, we had Freaknik in Atlanta. I mean, it is that to me, it's one of the biggest hubs of Black culture in America. So to act as if somehow Black people only live in one section of the city, and it's the part of the city that no one travels to, that no one can get to easily on the interstate, and is in more of a rundown part of the city, to me is incredibly disrespectful to the community that has built a very affluent neighborhoods on their own there and like created industry and businesses and small businesses all over that city, not just in one tiny section, like all throughout the city,
Hmm.
the suburbs, the surrounding counties. Like, yeah. So I find that to be very disrespectful.
Well, I feel like a common thread between both of the discussions we just had, and I can maybe sense some of it in your voice, is how often these things go national and are talked about by people who really don't know or
Yeah.
care about the area, whether or not they're right or not or wrong, that it's just like all of a sudden everyone is chiming in about this thing that, I remember reading about this stadium controversy. If Turner Field, which opened in 1997, they replaced it in
2015,
yeah.
2016.
So yeah, it wasn't even 20 years old, which that's a separate
But
controversy.
here's the thing, what's really happening is that they were
Yeah.
trying to put a casino there, and then that falls through. But because they're trying to get that to happen, they're using clickbait to try to say, like, well, this is why we shouldn't move the stadium, right? It has nothing to do with like cultures and like making sure that baseball is inclusive for everyone. Instead, it's like, how do we get people to vote for getting a casino, And so
Hmm.
to me, it's just like really slimy politics and it's really gross. And the Battery, which is the new stadium that they've built, has become this model of what other stadiums are trying to do. Like I work with lots of ownership groups, I work with lots of Major League Baseball teams. Any team that is basketball, football, any of that is trying to build a new stadium. They look at the Georgia model, a model that is like the hotels, apartments, there's a music venue inside, there's bars and restaurants so that people can come there all day,
Hmm.
hang out. They can stay at the hotel and walk directly into the stadium from the hotel. You don't have
Hmm.
to go outside and go through a turnstile and all this stuff. They have security within the hotel that allows you to walk right into the stadium. I mean, that's why the All-Star game was so successful there, is because everybody could stay right there and just walk.
Hmm.
Nobody had to sit in traffic and try to get down there. You know what I mean? Like there's stores within this little like suburb of the stadium that sell all kinds of merch that you could never get inside. That's not like MLB sponsored merch.
Hmm.
It's not from Fanatics. This is like, Michael Harris's
Just
line,
all
Usher's
foam
line.
finger stores.
No, but
Like,
it's also
I
like
don't get.
local Atlanta
Yeah.
gear, you know what
Uh-huh.
I mean? Like it's stuff that's super unique and original. And so like if you travel around to lots of stadiums, you're like, well, this is amazing. Like
Hmm.
people live here who work at the stadium because there's tons of apartments and buildings and stuff there. Like it's also a great place for players like when they first get signed there, like, okay, the Braves own certain apartments within this complex. It's like they've created this little almost like a mini miniature downtown. And it's also super easy to drive in and out and the train goes there. So it's all of it makes perfect sense. It's just people don't like change. People don't like things to move.
You got to move the Angels to Universal City Walk. Just throw the stadium there. People can
That would be very
shop.
cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's harder when you move a team, an hour away. That would be pretty tough, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
I would understand like wanting
Hmm.
to generate more revenue because Angels Stadium is, I go there a lot. There's not a lot of people there.
I looked a couple times when I lived in LA to go. I was like, I should see an Angels game. And like once or twice the Pirates played out there. And it was like the drive from LA to the stadium before the game, which is, 4 to 7 p.m. in California. It was like 2.5 hours
Hmm.
or something
Hmm.
like that to go, whatever, 30 miles. And I was just like,
Hmm.
well, I'm never going to do that ever.
Hmm.
So, yeah. So I never saw an Angels game while I was out there and for 4 years. But so I'm going to circle back to the team. So, yeah, so you have this weird Braves like they win in 95 and then they again 14 straight division titles, which kind of peters out in the early 2000s. And like you said, Chipper Jones retires, Bobby Cox, the longtime manager, retires, and then uh, they don't win a playoff series from 2002 until 2020. So, what was it like when, Greg Maddux goes to the Cubs, where he came from years ago? Tom Glavine, like you said, goes to the Mets. What does it feel like to go from this team that is just automatic winning every year, loaded with Hall of Famers, to like now you have to root for a regular sports team again? Was that jarring? Was it unusual?
Um, no. I mean,
No?
I guess like it like it's kind of weird because like that whole period of my life, I was struggling so much in Los Angeles that,
Hmm.
and I definitely got to watch the Braves, but I didn't watch them every day the way that I do now.
Hmm.
And I feel like I didn't really start watching them um, on a super consistent basis, probably until about 2015, like when my own career, when my own life was kind of like in a better place.
Hmm.
So it might be for the best that those years. I mean, I would still watch them all the time. Like, I mean, I still have all my scorekeeping books from going to see them in different stadiums, and getting hit by a, Freddie Freeman foul ball or whatever it is, and it's
You got
like,
hit by a foul ball?
yeah, in the leg at Giant Stadium because I used to always sit by the bullpen. Yeah, I was sitting there and I'm, just looking down, writing something down, and then I hear a crack of a bat and I look up and I'm like, that looks like it's coming. Ah! And then I just like turned and then it hit the inside of my thigh and I had a bruise like this big
Damn.
as I had to perform at Bottle Rock up in Napa, and yeah, I was limping the whole time.
Did you
But
show off
yeah,
the bruise at your performance?
no, it's a little too high up on the thigh.
Okay.
Not quite that kind of gal, but yeah, no, I didn't show it off. I took a picture of it though, and then I did Jay Moore's radio show when I got back to LA, and we were talking about it, and he told Freddie Freeman that he should throw me a ball, and I went to see the Dodgers. I mean, the Braves play the Dodgers right after that, and
Hmm.
then Freddie threw me a ball. So,
Nice.
I have
Hit you
one
in
that
the
he
other
didn't mean to
thigh.
give
You're like,
me.
oh God.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
one that he didn't mean to give me, and then one that he did mean to give me. So that's
All
good.
right. Cool. I'm glad that you got that result. I was going to say, like, if you're like a little kid and got hit, you might have been able to like meet him afterwards. But if you're
Oh
like just an
yeah.
adult, it's like, who gives a shit?
Nah. I mean, I love meeting Braves players and I can remember, like going to Andruw Jones, penthouse apartment when I was working for the Braves in 99 because my friend was his personal hitting instructor. And so
Nice.
we
Yeah.
would go and hang out there and like not a lot, but and then I didn't see Andruw again until last year at the MLB Awards because I usually write the MLB Awards with Roy Wood Jr. And I saw him because he was part of the show, and I told him all that, and I was like, "Oh, are you still friends with Jameel?" And he's like, "Oh yeah," and he like text him our picture. It was
Nice.
really wild.
Uh-huh.
It's like kind of full circle. And when I worked for the Braves, we used to do this fan player interview thing, and
Hmm.
like the fans could interview the players before the game, and I would assist with that. And so, I got to meet a lot of those guys, and
What was Andrew Jones like to meet?
Andruw Jones looks exactly the same.
Hmm.
Like it's so wild. He just looks like a little bit older version of himself. But he was very dynamic and talkative. You never know because some players are just quiet, or
Hmm.
I met Acuna, but he doesn't speak a ton of English, and he's at the time anyway, that was 2 years ago. So like now he's really learned a lot more of it in the off season, stuff like that.
Hmm. Have you ever been incredibly nervous to meet someone, either intimidated or like, if this person's a jerk, it's gonna ruin my life, or so, one of that kind of mentality?
No, I've never really been intimidated to meet anybody.
Hmm.
And I think that just comes from my own confidence and knowing that I can hold a conversation and that I have stories too. And that if, I think as a comedian, you can read energy. So you know when someone wants to talk and when they don't. And so you just
Yeah.
have to choose those moments. I don't think everyone in society has those, can read that energy. But as someone who's been around people every night, all night for the last 25 years, like I have a pretty good sense of when people want to hang and talk and then when they do not. But I'm not nervous. I remember one time I was waiting tables at the Beverly Hills Hotel, which I did for a really long time, and Derek Jeter came in after he was playing the Dodgers, and we had just gotten a TV in the bar. And so we watched he was the only person. He came in with a friend, and him and I watched his Sports Center highlights against the Dodgers together. And he, at the time, like, was like the Dodgers said that he was thrown out at home. This was before the review happened, and he was like, "No, I wasn't." And then he kind of like explained the whole situation to me, and he's like, "And this is what happened, and this is why I ran, and the ball was over here." And like, I mean, you know, it felt like, getting flying lessons from Maverick, where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
the best of the best.
I'd be so tempted to be like, no, that's not what happened, Jeter. Let me
Yeah.
explain let me like explain it to you for a bit.
Right.
All right. I've watched a lot of baseball.
Yeah, let me woman-splain baseball to Derek Jeter.
Yeah. I feel like I'd be half totally intimidated to see Derek Jeter, and half of me would just be like, I gotta ask you about the gift basket thing.
Oh, I know. Nah, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know the real story.
I prefer to believe. I prefer to believe. I don't care.
It's way more fun to just think that everybody got a headshot. Yeah, for sure.
Signed foam fingers for staying in his apartment. Mm-hmm. Great. So you mentioned like kind of losing interest a little bit, trying to follow them from the West Coast, but then getting back into them in the 2015-16. And then the Braves do win another World Series in 2021. Mm-hmm. So it's incredible to be like that dominant, but to go,
26 years.
26 years. I couldn't do the math. I was like 39 years. I was like trying to do the math on the fly. Yeah. I was just like, what was it like to go 250 years between titles? It's just like, you might want to edit that part. Yeah. Yeah, so they win again in 2021 with obviously a completely different team than the early 2000s kind of end of the Bobby Cox era. Where did you watch the 2021 World Series? And also, how different was it now after having lived a full life and a full life of rooting for the team and just a human life? How different did it feel to be like, oh my God, they might actually do this?
I mean, I think obviously that is probably one of the greatest moments of my life because they are my favorite team in my favorite sport. Mm-hmm. But I haven't really loved a team the way that I have loved this last team.
Oh yeah.
Once Acuna got there, it kind of changed everything for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to one of the games in Houston with my sister, so I got us tickets in Houston. So we went to game 2, which we lost. But, so then I watched the rest of the series at home with my boyfriend and my son. And
in California?
California. Yeah, we live in California in the suburbs. And
that's why you're so pro suburb. No,
in Los Angeles.
I'm in such a suburb right now myself.
Yeah, I mean, I cried. I think I drank a whole bottle of Dom Perignon like after that. I really don't remember very much after we won because I smoked a cigar. I don't even know where it came from. I think my guy gave it to me. And I just couldn't believe it. Like, I just couldn't believe that after all this time, all the ups and downs of like making the playoffs, losing in the playoffs. And, a few years earlier, it was like, we were with the Trevor Bauer year when he was on the Reds, and like we were just so close in 2020 to like we lose against the Dodgers, and it's just like so like I hate the Dodgers so much, and then I'm just like this series I'm like driving back and forth to the Comedy Store and like trying to listen to it on my car and like freaking out, and to me honestly beating the Dodgers
on stage, it's so funny.
Yeah. For me, beating the Dodgers in 2021 to get to the World Series, that was the biggest hump for me. Like the Dodgers always ruined our path all the time. And so I think just seeing this team and it being a team that nobody thought was going to go anywhere, we weren't really on anyone's radar.
Well, didn't Acuna get hurt that year?
Yeah, we lost Acuna before the All-Star break.
Yeah, that's crazy that's the year they ended up winning.
Yeah, we were 44-44. But I think we won because of Hank Aaron. I think because that's unfortunately the year that Hank Aaron passed away. And, it was we everybody talked about how, oh, I can't believe they won without Acuna. And for me, I was like, I can't believe we won without Hank Aaron. And all the 44 terminology and like symbology, like numerology that was happening within the World Series. There were 44 runs scored, and that was his number. That's why I named my special 44, like, because I was also 44 years old when I taped it. And like it was just
Hmm.
like everything kind of clicked together. And then we were also playing against the Astros, who had Dusty Baker as their manager, and Dusty Baker was Hank Aaron's best friend. So to me, it just kind of felt like this really beautiful tribute to Hank Aaron. And then for the Astros to win it the following year told me that Hank was still there, like he's like, I got you, and
Hmm.
then he took care of his best friend the following year.
Aw.
Yeah, when
But
Hank Aaron hit 755 or 714, whenever he broke the record, 714, Dusty Baker was on deck.
yeah, I hadn't thought of that connection when he was managing. I was so happy for Dusty Baker too. I did not like or care about the Astros at all, like a lot
Mhm.
of people, but him winning in his like 70s, I was kind of happy. So,
Yeah, I mean the Astros don't bother me that the way that they bother everyone else. You can't have heroes if you don't have villains, and the Astros gave all of baseball like one incredibly great villain.
mhm.
But also, I think it also made the Dodgers just look like the wusses that they are for being like, well, we should be getting that World Series because they cheated. And it's like, well, you had home field advantage for that World Series. So if you were that good, you wouldn't have won one game in Houston and lost two games at home.
I just feel so left out as a Pirates fan, just being like, I would take any of these problems.
Yeah, that's
I'll
true.
lose in the wild card game. I don't care. Just give me
Mhm.
anything, man. Yeah. Oh, they were stealing signals, Dodgers, with your $650 billion payroll. Like,
Mhm.
damn, how could you overcome that? Oh, you had some injuries too. That sucks. That's never happened.
It's
Anyway.
really so unfortunate too, because your owner always just cries, like small market. And it's like, there's only small mines, there's no small markets, not anymore anyway, and not with the revenue share check that teams get.
You're talking about the
Like
Pirates, not the Dodgers, right?
the Pirates.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Please. I could do a whole other podcast about
Yeah.
the Pirates owner, but can't post it online because I get banned for like death threats for sure.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
don't want to get banned from that beautiful
No.
stadium.
No. So yeah, so looking back, it's such a it's such an interesting arc, both of the Braves and then of your life coming from California, going to Georgia, going back to California, kind of keeping the Braves. How do you think your personal fandom has changed over the years? It sounds like you're a bigger fan than you were when you were little. Is
Big
that true?
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because of
Yeah,
professional things or being able to watch the team more or what?
I think it's because the longer you work in the entertainment business, the more you crave things that are fair. And sports is the one thing in my life that is fair. Like there's a winner and a loser based on merit and effort. You can't
Hmm.
score a touchdown because your dad's a cinematographer. So like I think that's why I've gotten closer and closer to it. It just feels like this very personal thing for me. It keeps a connection alive with my family and friends back home. My family is all still huge fans, and
Hmm.
a lot of my friends from high school or college, will meet up at games or see each other. Like that's just how we still communicate is like, we're not really talking to each other about, hey, I'm having a baby. It's like, oh, did you see we got Matt Olson?
Yeah.
Like
Uh-huh.
that.
Yeah, I can
So
relate.
it's honestly keeps relationships alive for me.
Hmm.
It keeps my ties to Georgia alive. And I think it just keeps me sane. So I'm definitely way more into it. And now that I have a child, he is very into it, and I love seeing him love. I just want him to love baseball. I don't really care who he cheers for. I mean, he lives in Los Angeles, so he's going to end up being a Dodgers fan probably, but
Hmm.
I don't want to really influence him. I'm like, yeah, mom likes the Braves, dad likes the Red Sox, and you can like whoever you want. I mean, I just bought him an Ellie De La Cruz jersey because he loves Ellie. And I'm like, great. I just want you to love baseball. I really don't care about anything else.
That's good. That's diplomatic.
You should also know how to read, but baseball first.
You can do a scorecard. That's fine. That's a
Once he's good
stepping
enough
stone.
to keep score.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be teaching him that. Yeah.
I find that really interesting because, a lot of people I talk to, I feel like the usual arc is like my fandom peaked at, 13, 14, and now I'm like busier and have kids, and I still try to watch when I can. But some people, and I feel like I'm maybe the same way. I feel like I'm as into it as ever. And it's like, it seems like you appreciate it in this different way, that it's like integrated into your adult life in a way that's kind of essential, and not like, oh, I have this adult life and now I don't have time for sports, kind of.
No, that's all I have time for. But I also, like I have implemented it into my work. Like I'm a writer on top of being a comedian. I'm a comedy writer, and I write a lot of sports shows and sports jokes, and all of that is very helpful when you have some sort of depth of knowledge of certain aspects of things. It's why MLB Network picked up my long ball segment. It's why I write for the MLB Awards. It's why I write for the ESPYs. It's, why I got on the Tom Brady roast. It's like, I have this depth of knowledge of sports. I'm also pretty married to it because, my significant other is a sportscaster. So he's, it hits his whole life too. So it's inevitably going to be my son's life and my life. And it's very helpful when you're allowed to have two TVs in the living room because you both want them there.
Well, last question. Next 5 to 10 years, you get one more championship. Braves, Falcons, Georgia, or Atlanta Hawks?
Braves for sure.
Braves for sure, even though they have two. You wouldn't take Falcons?
No.
Really?
I want to see Acuna win one with next year. Acuna will be another year removed from his other ACL injury. So we know next year, so next year he's going to be so explosive and good. And that's when we need to be putting players around him. Like, this is not the year to be putting players around Acuna when he wasn't even going to be here for the first 2 months. It doesn't help that you... Yeah, it doesn't help that you lose all your pitchers, and, it is what it is. But I think next year, so the next 2 to 3 years is like kind of the window. And then you have to get back under the CBT again, and you're going to have to be really crummy for another year if you want to keep Acuna. If you don't want to keep Acuna, which I'm okay with, like I'm not ever like, oh, we have to. I mean, he's the only one I've ever really wanted to keep. But if we don't, I totally understand. He should get paid all the money in the world. And if another team is willing to give him $1 billion, see you later. I appreciate all the love you gave me on my team. No hard feelings.
Yeah. I love the idea of, I forgot to mention too, of like sports being the one place where Nepo babies don't just automatically succeed.
Yeah.
That just like the World Series champions are, Jason Reitman, what the hell? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Barack Obama's production company won the World Series?
Yes.
Like, what? That's weird.
Even Spielberg's nephew got in.
They're just holding the Lombardi trophy. We're like, what? They didn't even play.
Yeah, sports is the great equalizer.
That's our show for the week. My thanks again to Sarah Tiana for coming on to talk about the Braves. If you like the show, please leave an iTunes review, or just tell some people about it. We'll be back next Tuesday with an all-new episode. Thanks so much for listening, everyone.